This episode of Nick and Friends is going to be an interesting one for me, especially doing this introduction, because this isn't a friend who, I've known for a few years, and it's kind of like, hey, guys, check out my new friend, blank. A lot of these interviews that I do are specifically for, the friends I have growing up, because I'm always talking about you guys, and I wanted them to know what I was up to and who I was hanging out with. But when it comes to someone like Justin, it's really difficult to think of any portion of my life that he hasn't been involved in. I've known him since kindergarten, and we became friends in 7th grade, and have essentially been inseparable from then until college, when he went to school in Los Angeles and I went to Humboldt my first year and then SF State. But there were times when, Darren and I drifted apart, and there were times when, Alex and I weren't hanging out quite as much, but Justin was someone that I probably spent most of my time with in high school, and I think a lot of that had to do with me relying on him and kind of holding him close to me, in the sense of, well, if I don't have you, then who am I gonna have? I definitely spent a lot of time showing up at lunch and being like, oh, Justin, we should go get food somewhere, because I was nervous about being seen alone on campus, or not alone, but just not having people I could feel comfortable walking up to talk to, and I always wondered if Justin maybe felt the same way, or if he knew that that's where my, not urgency, but desire came from. But anyway, Justin asked me to be his best man for his wedding to Kimmy in 2019, and he sent me this incredible letter, and I won't go into the specifics, because it's going to make me sound braggadocious, but it was the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me, and it was probably the biggest honor of my life. Obviously, officiating Hillary and John's wedding is a close number 2, but it's pretty palpable to go through the full circle relationship with someone like Justin, where you sit down across from them in class in 7th grade and you see them drawing a picture of Link from Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, and I don't remember if it was me or if it was him. I suppose it was me who said, oh, are you looking forward to that game? And friendship really never stopped ever since then. And he lives in Portland now with his wife Kimmy, and he just came up this last weekend for my birthday, and I didn't get to see him as much as I wanted to. I did warn him in advance that my friend group here is definitely skewing younger these days, just based on the amount of Frisbee I play, and the ripe age of mid to late 20s, which is probably people's prime Frisbee years. And it was wild, but I appreciated Justin, Kimmy, and Alex's willingness to be young for a night with me and them. Anyway, I was really grateful I was able to do this with Justin. He's one of the best people I know, and I love him very much. Hey, Justin.
Hey, Nick.
Welcome to the in-person Nick and Friends podcast with Justin, who came up to Seattle to visit me for my birthday party that's happening tonight in a couple hours. But first, we're doing this, and hopefully, I am actually slightly worried about, like, drinking now and then drinking. I mean, there's going to be like an hour and a half, 2-hour gap, I suppose, but still.
Yeah, well, it has been a long time since I took any kind of shots in
really?
general.
Okay.
And I'm these days more kind of like a 1 or 2 beers a week kind of person, so we'll see.
Was it in Arizona?
That probably was the last time I took a shot, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't take shots often either.
So, what, like 4 or 5 months ago?
Yeah. Here's yours. We are
Thank
drinking
you.
Verhofstadt, Apple Genevieve, which Alex got me, I think, for my birthday last year, and I'm just opening up now.
Shout out Alex.
Yeah.
It's a very apple-scented kind of liqueur.
Mm. Oh, wow, it's like apple juice.
Yeah, I don't know if it qualifies as like a hard liquor, but it smells really good.
I thought it would be like a whiskey type thing. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's really tasty and interesting.
Yeah, it's good.
Hmm.
I don't even need a chaser for that. I feel like that might be a mixer.
Yeah, it's 20%. Well, okay. How about maybe for the next shot we'll do vodka, and then for the third we can do that one again.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Let's say that we started at 5:50. Just to make it easy. So 6:10 will be
That
the
is
next
the
one.
time. So.
Okay, Justin. First question. And I'm excited for this one because I probably know the answer. Are you proud or ashamed of the first album you ever bought?
Well, the first one I bought with my own money.
Well, it can be like you asked
like
your
the
mom
first
to
one
get
I
it for you,
requested.
or just like the first one you remember being like, I want this.
I do remember like the first one I received when I was like, I got my first like cassette Walkman. And then my dad was like, your first album that you get is like really important.
Really?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was probably like 7 or 8.
That's really funny.
I was like really young, and I really didn't like think this was a momentous occasion at all. But apparently he did, and then he took me to, I think, a warehouse music store.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like browsing, he was like really taking it upon himself to like get me something that he thought was good. So he got me ZZ Top's Greatest Hits on cassette.
Okay, so he got it for you.
He got it for me. I did not like play a part in selecting this.
I mean, it is still cool. I mean, sure enough, he was right. Here you are, like 30 years later, almost 30 years later, and I'm asking you what's the first album you ever bought.
Yeah, he was right about that, and I have had this conversation with people before where ZZ Top's Greatest Hits, I end up being very proud of that one.
Yeah.
Compared to some other people. But as far as like the first one that I selected myself, I think it was like an NSYNC album or something like that. Maybe Smash Mouth Astro Lounge.
That was one of mine.
I know I got that one on cassette and then rebought it on CD once I switched over to CDs, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the PS4 to PS5 upgrade. Like, once the cassette goes out, you can't really...
You pay the extra,
really
like,
bring it back.
$5. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Probably Pokemon by, like, a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Did you watch it every day after school?
Pretty much every day. I remember one time I had, like, Cub Scouts after school, and we ditched Cub Scouts to come home to my house, like, down the street from our elementary school to watch Pokemon after school instead, because we were so excited for, like, what was going to happen. Because I think it was when...
There was, like, a gym battle or something.
Yeah, I think it was, like, when Ash was, like, bringing Haunter with him back to Sabrina to, like, take revenge after she kicked his ass. and we were like, oh my god.
And the Boy Scout troop leaders were okay with that?
I don't think that they knew like that this
just...
was our plan. I think that we got a call, or like my mom got a call that we didn't show up, or I didn't show up, like, and she was like, oh yeah, it's fine, he's here, like I know where he is. And she was just like, oh, this is my son, these are where his priorities lie.
Fair. I thought that you were saying you had like gone to, you know, the meetup and then bailed, like left, and the troops were looking for you.
Yeah, no, we just didn't show up.
But maybe they were just like, well, I'm sure they got home just fine. On that note, who did you take to the Elite Four in your first go of Pokemon?
Ooh. So I'm like embarrassed to say that I don't remember the first team I ever took, because this is probably like my most replayed game of all time. So yeah, I don't actually know, but I'm pretty sure I mostly recreate my original team almost every time. So I'm pretty sure that I had a Charizard, a Golem, an Alakazam.
Golem.
Yeah. And then the rest kind of get mixed up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time I have a Vaporeon. Sometimes there's a Dragonite in there.
How many times have you played through Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow?
Probably around 10.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you count like Red, Blue, Yellow, Fire Red,
yeah,
Leaf Green,
that's,
like all as one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you ever have it on like a phone emulator?
Yes.
Okay. I remember playing Leaf Green on my phone emulator.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm sure you helped me with that. It was like 2012 or something.
Yeah. That was like when I was like, oh, this is why people have smartphones.
Yeah.
It's all worth it now.
That's funny.
When I was at work in the bathroom playing Pokemon Leaf Green on my phone.
Why Golem?
I don't know. I think you pick up Geodude super early.
But why Geodude? I remember he was just like an inconvenience for me always.
Just the rock resistance to normal attacks is like so good in the beginning, and then I don't know, I think like especially your first run, it's like whoever's strong at the beginning, you kind of keep them for like a long time.
Yeah.
Because like training anything new up just feels like so much work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I had a Graveler for like a super long time, and then when I learned about the trading evolving thing, then I was like, oh, now he's like even stronger, so like I'm definitely taking him. So yeah, I don't know. Golem.
That is how I ended up with a Pidgeot in my...
Ooh, Pidgeot was probably in my initial run too.
I mean, Pidgeot was really good, but
yeah,
I was like, oh, Pidgey, I mean, I'll catch it, might as well catch Pidgey on my way to Viridian City.
Yeah. Pidgeot makes it through a lot. Raticate never does.
No, I was never a fan of the two-stage Pokemon evolutions, except for Sandshrew and Sandslash.
Yeah. Ooh, Sandslash? Yeah. The runs I didn't have Golem definitely subbed in a Sandslash. But yeah.
Do you have any favorite YouTube channels?
My current favorite YouTube channel is DIY Perks, which is like this guy who he basically just comes up with like a concept for like some piece of tech that he wishes existed, and then he just makes it. So like a recent one that I saw was like him making a portable PS5.
Whoa.
Where he just like disassembles a PS5, and then he's like, okay, well really this heatsink could be like replaced with this other one that's like way smaller and more efficient, or like here I have these like screens from old laptops that I can like hook up using this motherboard I bought from China, and like he packages it up super nice and like professionally. So yeah, it's like very impressive, but also he doesn't do it with like a crazy amount of like expensive equipment. He kind of just has like stuff that a typical DIY-er would have. So It's like even more impressive in that regard, but also like makes it seem more achievable if you were like as smart as him.
Do you feel like there are lessons that you take away from it, or insights, or do you feel like this guy is just like above and beyond your own handy capabilities?
I mean, I think he's definitely beyond me as far as like knowledge of electronics, but it's definitely not to the level that I think it's like unachievable, which I think is part of the appeal.
What's something that you're better at than anyone you know?
I am like the type of person that does not like to say this type of answer.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah. I think like a realistic answer would be like cutting people's hair. Because I've cut like a lot of people's hair, actually. Like even before COVID started. And the reviews when that person eventually visits a barber have been actually positive. So I'm like, oh, actually, I'm pretty decent.
Did that start in college?
No, this started like after Kimmy moved in with me in LA. Then she started cutting my hair. And then I think because we had the haircutting kit and I was like basically telling her how to cut my hair based on just seeing what the barber was doing, then I started cutting our roommate Andy's hair. And then, I don't know, guys' hair, like you have to cut it like once a month, so it's like kind of a lot of experience if you start cutting someone's hair. And then I just started cutting, like our next roommate after that had short hair, I started cutting their hair. And at some point I got permission to start cutting Kimmy's hair, which is like totally different. So now I cut Kimmy's hair like once a year. And I've also cut Katya's hair. Just as a fun activity while she was visiting.
I got my hair cut like 2 weeks ago, and it had been, I think, like 4 months or something since I got it cut. And I asked her, like, yeah, I kind of just like letting it grow out, and then every 3 months or something I'll get one. So if you just like form it so that it looks good now, and then I'll need another one in like 3 months. Let me know. And then she started doing all this, I don't know, additional styling stuff to it, and like really getting detailed with it. And then at the end of it she said like, yeah, and so just come back in a month and we'll keep it keep it locked up. And I feel like she did it on purpose so that I have an incentive to come back.
Oh,
so
like you think that it's designed to fail in a month? Like it's like a cheap piece of electronics.
It'll look good for a month and then I'll pass the threshold.
Your warranty is expired, sir.
Yeah.
Well, it looks good. It does have like
Thanks.
a coif to it that I am not used to seeing.
A coif.
A COIF.
Is that like a fluff?
Like, yeah, kind of.
Oh, I came out of the shower earlier. I'll fix it.
I just woke up like this. It's.
What was your worst subject in school growing up?
When I was really young, it was like reading comprehension. But for like all the times that like grades actually mattered, it was history.
Yeah. Why do you think that?
Well, I did get the worst grades in history out of all my subjects, but I also just had trouble like being interested. I don't know. I just felt like a lot of the time, like unless it was like a topic that I thought was cool, which was basically only like feudal Japan, Egyptians, or World War II, then I was just so disinterested and checked out, and I was just trying to memorize facts for like a test or whatever.
I think the only section of history classes, I think I was like a decent history student in general, but I got really into World War II, or just World Wars, like sophomore year when we were studying that.
Yeah, World War II was like pretty interesting, and I feel like they go pretty hard on World War II, like to make it seem, I mean, it was like a very epic thing that happened, but the way they present it is like generally pretty exciting, I think. Yeah,
and I don't know, up until that point it was just always just kind of this vague sense of like, countries were fighting against each other, but like I don't know, it's hard to kind of appreciate the scale until I could read the build up of it and lasting consequences and be like, oh, like Germany wasn't West Germany and East Germany until like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's the other thing, is it's like recent enough that you have like some amount of context for what's going on, and it feels like it has like repercussions on like things that you know about.
Yeah.
Like my grandpa was in World War II, and like, oh, he's still alive and like has like stuff. I mean, he's not alive now, but at the time we were learning about it.
Yeah.
Whereas so much of the other stuff is just like, okay, this like super old white guy like did this and, you know, established this thing that we call like enlightenment or whatever period we call this, and I don't know. Just not, I don't know. I like things to be like represented in the physical world, and I find that more interesting.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite game to play in PE?
Has to be Cone Ball.
I was hoping you'd say that.
I mean, yeah.
But I would say Capture the Flag was up there.
Capture the Flag is good. I feel like we didn't play Capture the Flag very often, though. Like, I can't even, like, picture where we would play that. Are you talking about at Brookside?
Whitehill mostly?
Oh, Whitehill.
Yeah.
On the field? Blacktop?
Yeah. I think the field.
Yeah.
Blacktop would be scary, I feel like.
Huh. Oh, I kind of remember. Like, one of the flags is, like, over on the other side of the field in the ditch, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I just didn't have as many Capture the Flag experiences. And then Cone Ball, we started playing that when we were so young.
Yeah.
That I think that's, like, more of a fond memory because it's, like, older.
Do you remember the name of the PE teacher who taught everyone Cone Ball? He was, like, that cool young guy.
I thought Mr. Stewart taught us Cone Ball.
Well, Mr. Stewart wasn't until Whitehill.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm misremembering that. In that case, no, I guess not.
To my recollection, this guy was probably like 24 or something, and but you know, obviously back then I was like, this guy's 40.
Yeah.
But apparently he, and I'm probably totally wrong, but the rumor I heard at the time was that he got fired because he said shit, and Jeremy Boucher told on him. And I remember being really upset about that.
That sounds made up.
Yeah.
But I'd never heard that at the time, so I'm not sure. Jeremy Boucher doesn't strike me as a snitch, though.
No, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I could think was that maybe he like got in trouble one day and he's like, oh, I'm gonna get him back, and
maybe. Like, maybe this PE teacher wronged him by like confiscating his skateboard.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Boucher was like, oh, bro.
Yeah. But
I'm gonna ruin your fucking life.
In retrospect, that's probably not how it happened. I also feel like that wouldn't necessarily be a fireable offense.
I mean, yeah, that's the other aspect, which also seems unrealistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to say. Different times.
At the time, as a kid, I was like, oh, they said shit? Like, yeah, they're done. They're out of here.
Yeah, yeah.
But now I'd be like, oh, like if I was this guy's boss, I'd be like, oh, yeah, like, I mean, don't do that. Like, you know, that's a warning. Like, don't swear in front of the kids.
Yeah.
But no biggie.
Well, also, I mean, PE teacher, I feel like you gotta get a little more leniency for stuff you can say.
Yeah. Especially one that's so cool. He was like even younger than Mr. Stewart.
Yeah. And he's introducing Cone Ball.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the administration's not taking this into account, but like the contributions outweigh the wrongs.
Yeah. Did you know that I was in a dodgeball league briefly for one season in San Francisco?
Oh, I did not know that, no.
Yeah.
Did you try introducing Cone Ball?
No. From like the first game, I was like, this is awful now. Because people can throw it so hard and so fast. And I thought I could throw it hard, but no, compared to some people. A lot of people did the like women's softball like underhand throw. You can throw it really, really far.
Are you not allowed to throw overhand?
You can do that too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, these guys could just bullet it at you, and it was really hard to catch. And I was on this like free agent team, so we had no synergy, and like hardly any people would show up. And it's just like I was like, dodgeball is gonna be great and casual, but no, like people took it really seriously, and it was not fun, and it was such a bummer because that would be so much fun if. But
that's too bad.
You can't play dodgeball as an adult.
I did participate in one like intramural college dodgeball season.
That sounds like it'd be worse.
That was when I was like, oh, I can't play this anymore. Pretty much for the same reasons, where you're just like not as good as you think, and people are way better than you.
Yeah.
But it was also like college, so like eventually I was like, okay, my role is not going to be to make any kind of real contribution here. My role is going to be to just kind of like make dodges and have the people watching be impressed that I dodged a ball, and that's how I'm going to build up my cred.
Yeah.
But still just like, yeah, not really worth the number of times getting pelted by balls by people way bigger than me.
In college, there still is that like hero element of playing where you're the last one alive, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, look at that dodge! Go Justin! Oh, he got it!"
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're on to round 2, phase 2. So I'm gonna get the down, and as I'm walking over. What was your best subject in school?
My best subject in school was probably math.
Did you enjoy it?
I think I enjoyed it more than everyone else.
Yeah.
But I think I wouldn't have enjoyed it if I wasn't good at it. I think I enjoyed feeling like it was just coming naturally to me.
Were there any aspects of it that you struggled with? Like, I had a lot of issues with fractions in 4th grade, I remember, and that set me back for a while.
I do remember, like, sometimes word problems would be, like, really confusing for me.
Cheers.
Cheers. I think partly from the reading comprehension aspect of it, because I was like really weak at that part. But I do also remember like really struggling on these word problems sometimes, and then asking my dad for help, and then him also being confused. So it might not have been my fault. And now looking back on it, knowing like, since Kimmy was a teacher for some time, and also just knowing that like adults are not infallible, now I'm like, maybe whoever wrote that word problem just screwed it up, and it really wasn't worded that well, and it wasn't my fault. So I don't know, but in general, math was pretty breezy.
It is kind of funny how, as a kid, you just kind of have to accept, like, okay, this is the way the problem's written. It's my fault totally if I can't understand it. And I don't know, now as an adult, and especially after, like, going through a lot of writing classes, I could look at something and be like, oh, this is phrased poorly, or, like, it'd be easier to understand if I could write it this way.
Yeah, I mean, that just doesn't cross your mind as a kid, because I think, like, you have to buy into the idea that, like, they know what they're talking about and you don't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, the whole thing just falls apart.
Yeah, and I guess, like, the reading comprehension, I mean, obviously most of it is probably like, hey, we're going to present all the information you need. Now we just need you to, like, parse together the answers. But I'm sure some of them, especially on the SAT, were designed to kind of, like, trick you or, like, pull you away from certain parts of it. And
oh, yeah, SAT is, like, a whole other thing. I don't know how... Yeah. They've also, like, changed the SAT a lot recently, I feel like, where... I don't really know exactly what they're trying to accomplish, but...
I haven't kept up.
They are taking out certain parts, and, like, certain schools are, like, not considering SATs anymore, so... Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole societal problem there that I don't know enough about to discuss, but
Yeah. Yeah, me neither.
you know, test scores are important somewhat.
All right, first phase 2 question. What's the most physical pain you've ever been in?
Ooh. I feel like I told you about this recently, but maybe a year ago, I was warming up some water for tea,
Oh, yeah.
and we have this hot water heater that boils the water, so I poured that into like my insulated mug or whatever to make some tea, and then I was sitting down and the tea like slipped out of my hand and fell into my lap. And so I basically had boiling water going all over my crotch region. Which initially, when it first hit, I was like, okay, this is gonna like hurt really bad for a second and then be fine.
Yeah.
But it was like, it hit and then the steam coming off was also like super hot.
Jesus.
So it was like an extended amount of pain, and so I ended up like stripping off my pants and my underwear like right there at the dining table, and then just like going fetal in the dining room. And then I just rushed upstairs to the bathtub to like get under some cold water. And yeah, I ended up with like definitely 2nd-degree burns all over my my bits.
So it was definitely like completely debilitating. Like you had to keel over and you had to just like.
Oh yeah, I was collapsed. I
Yeah.
was like 1 HP.
Man. I don't think I've asked this question too many times, but I think that might take the cake from what I've heard.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I've never broken a bone, so I don't know where that stands, but that sounds pretty bad, especially like from what I've heard about people going in to like reset the bone. That sounds like really painful.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you haven't had like a childbirth person on.
Nope.
But I probably wouldn't dare to compare to that. But yeah, it's also just like the area the pain was in was like very uncomfortable.
How long did you feel pain?
It was a week of like me feeling like I couldn't have anything touching it, or else I would not like be comfortable, like not be able to sleep or whatever. Like I was just like sleeping naked without a sheet on for like a week. And then probably like, I don't know, 2 weeks of just being mildly uncomfortable. And then maybe 3 weeks until all the blistering and like, I mean, I still have like some burn marks on my legs and stuff, but until everything was back to normal looking.
Oof.
Yeah, I think it could have been a lot worse though. I think if I didn't like immediately go under some cold water, I think I would have had like some kind of permanent damage, or I probably would have had to go to like the emergency room or something. So yeah, but if you ask Kimmy about it, she thinks this is like a funny incident.
Well, it's like, I mean, it's silly in the sense of I'm thinking of all the little things we do throughout the day that could potentially be so damaging to us. Like driving's a really good example of just like how carefree people are when they drive sometimes, and then just one wrong move and same thing. You make a tea. You've done it like 1,000 times.
I know, you make a fucking tea.
Oh, and even like as it slips out of your hand, you're probably thinking for a split second like, gosh darn it, I'm gonna have to clean that up. Like, and then it lands on your body.
Yeah.
And yeah, even then, like you said, you're like, oh, fudge, this is gonna hurt a little bit.
Yeah, I think it was partly the surprise of it being a lot worse than I thought it would be that made it a lot worse. But yeah, it is true. Like, it's that kind of thing that it feels like something so mundane and simple that like I can imagine like when I'm a parent just freaking out about like everything that could possibly happen to my child from like doing just like the simplest thing.
Yeah. You have to like child-proof your entire life.
Yeah, I don't know how they get over that.
All right. I'm curious what you say about this one because we grew up in the same place. What was the best part of growing up where you did, and what was the worst?
I think the best part about growing up where we did was just how safe everything felt, like, all the time.
That's really true.
Like, I don't think I ever had a second thought about, like, going out no matter what time of night it was. And in some sense, it was actually nicer, like, the later it was.
Yeah.
Because we could just, like, go walk in the middle of the street and, like, go walk over a trail that you feel like you know, like, the back of your hand to get to somewhere. And you just feel like you own the place, kind of. But I do think that also contributes to, like, why I think it was sort of the worst. Because the worst part about where we grew up, I thought, was, like, how disconnected I felt like we were from, like, stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I basically felt like you had to learn how to drive the second you turn 15 and a half and get your license when you're 16 so that you can actually go places. Because otherwise you're, like, just limited to wherever you can bike, basically.
Yeah.
And then meeting Kimmy, where she grows up in the city, and then, like, when I met her, she didn't have her driver's license yet, and, like, couldn't really ride a bike.
Yeah.
Because she, like, never needed to. I was like, oh wow, that's, like, so crazy.
I remember you telling me about Kimmy's, like, walking around the city experiences after you guys first met, and how she was just so accustomed to that, and, like,
Oh, really?
I have to walk, like, a mile to get down the, not a mile, but like half a mile to get down the hill, and then we're just gonna walk to my friend's house, and we're gonna walk over here, and we're gonna walk to get food, and
Yeah. I mean, I felt lucky that, like, I could walk over to your house
yeah.
really easily. I could walk to Marcus's house. I thought that was super cool that, like, we could cross the creek from Marcus's house to your house and feel like we had, like, a little shortcut. But, like, yeah, I mean, for us to go and get a burger,
Yeah.
like, we would have had to
happening.
bike, like, 3 miles or get a ride.
Yeah. This is a very, very long time ago. Like, I think even before I was good friends with you. But one time I, like, crossed over the creek to Marcus's house, and I don't remember the context of why I hung out with Marcus that day. But I, like, his parents, like, came to meet me. For, like, they came to the fence where the creek is at Marcus's house, and they basically told me, like, to not come over because they were worried about me crossing the creek, which is obviously totally valid. Like, it wasn't, I mean, it was safe enough, but, like, for a parent seeing a kid do that, not super safe. But yeah, I wonder if that was, like, before Petra even really knew me and was just like, why is this kid coming out of the forest into our backyard?
How old are you? Do you remember?
I was maybe, maybe it was after I met you guys.
Like 11.
Because we were 12 when we all started hanging out, I think. 12
Yeah.
or 13. Yeah, maybe it was after. Because I can't think of why I would have hung out with Marcus before that.
Yeah, why would you hang out with Marcus?
Well, it's just because we weren't friends until you and I were friends.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I feel like a 13-year-old, I would be like, okay, you're fine.
Yeah.
If you're like 10, I might be like, I don't want to be liable for this.
Right. And obviously, eventually, they were totally fine with it. As far as I know.
When's the last time you saw that creek?
Well, I drove past it. Like, I drove by my old house, like a month before I moved, well, like 2 weeks before I moved to Seattle, so a little over a year and a half ago. But I haven't gone down there in probably at least 10 years.
Because I haven't, like, looked at it probably since high school. But I would be curious, like, how dangerous it actually is.
Yeah.
Because I remember being super comfortable crossing it. But I don't know if that means that it was actually safe, or if that means that we just had an invincible feeling about ourselves.
I mean, to an extent, we kind of were invincible compared to now, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's definitely true.
But I never hurt myself. I don't think any of us ever did.
No.
There was one part of it that could get kind of slippery. But, yeah.
It was like a bit of a drop,
yeah.
I remember.
And then there'd be times when it was like the water was there was too much water and you couldn't cross it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, super easy. I distinctly remember too, Marcus had a 4th of July party at his house one time. And this is like it's like sophomore year of college or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just done the fun run. And he had some people over and I hopped over the fence. And it was like John Judkins and Emily the doll, and they just looked at me like, what the fuck? Because they had no idea I lived across the street, across the creek. Yeah, just a kid comes out of the forest.
I love that. I feel like that's like very on brand for like what I picture like our relationship to Marcus's friend group being.
I agree.
Is like, oh yeah, these are like the Marcus's other friends that like just pop out of a bush sometimes.
Yeah. What's the luckiest thing that's ever happened to you?
I don't think I've ever like had a lucky incident in the typical like winning a low probability thing sense. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I would have to say Kemi just knocking on my door. Like, especially now as we get older and just like seeing people I know struggling with the dating world. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that I didn't have to do anything just feels like the luckiest thing ever.
I mean, it's how you met, but you also had to go through the pursuit and courting.
Yeah, sure. But I don't know. I mean, there's no way I would have initialized anything if that hadn't happened, and it just feels like it came out of nowhere and just fell in my lap. So I don't know. I mean, as far as any other event in my life goes, that has to be like the most impactful thing that's ever happened, probably.
What's the best gift you've ever gotten?
I don't know. So I've listened to like quite a few of your podcasts actually, and I've heard you ask this before. Mm-hmm. And I feel like people actually have like very nice sentimental gifts of like, you know, I mean, I can't think of like one that someone said, but like, oh, a call from my grandma, or like that type of gift, you know?
Yeah.
But the only thing I can think right now is when I was like in 3rd grade, I got like a full-sized mountain bike with like shocks and everything for Christmas. And this was just like the best gift ever at the time, mostly because before that I used to ride this like really small Magna bike with like the pedal backwards to brakes. And I used to get made fun of by our neighbor for mostly just being a small kid, but also just partly my bike being super small and shitty. And so then when I got the like real bike, I was like, oh, thank God this kid's not gonna bully me anymore. And also like I was talking about before, like bikes were kind of like our main mode of transportation, so it's like getting a new car kind of.
Sure.
So yeah, I was like really stoked, and I had no idea that they were like, my parents were gonna get me a bike, so I was like oh, this is the best day ever.
I wonder if like, it's funny to think of our parents as like fun people at that age, but I wonder if they like looked at each other after you saw the bike and just like mentally gave each other like a high five.
Oh, you have to. I mean,
Right.
yeah. I can't imagine my parents doing that, but like, I mean, they must have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they at least like when they were wrapping it up, they were like, he's gonna flip his shit.
Yeah. I feel like that, like, if I was a parent, I would love to do that. Just like, maybe like after the kid goes out to play with it, would be just like walk with my partner. And be like, fuck yeah! Like,
Yeah.
giant high five.
Yeah.
What's your favorite video game?
Number one only?
Yeah.
Shit. Such an obvious question that you would ask me that I didn't prepare for. So I'm between, like I mentioned, I played first gen Pokemon like 10 times. And I would take that to a desert island probably. But do I think it's my favorite as far as like the experience or like the game for what it is? I don't know. I think Ocarina's competing for favorite of all time. I think I would have to go with first gen Pokemon though over it, just because of the number of times that I've played it and its impact on me and my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I think back now and, like, I just didn't really appreciate, in retrospect, I didn't appreciate it as much as I should have. Like, obviously, when I played, I was like, this game's fucking sick. Oh my god, I'm running around catching Pokemon?
Yeah.
What a blast. But in retrospect, like, for the, limited hardware of the Game Boy, it was a pretty cool RPG. Pretty cool game.
Yeah, I mean, it honestly, like, didn't even feel like a game when I was playing it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is like an experience.
Yeah,
like,
it's like a little adventure in your pocket.
Like, the fact that everyone was like, I mean, not everyone, but like tons of people were playing it at the same time, and just like the era of like discovering things and like rumors getting spread around.
Yeah.
And then just like, oh, did you know you can do this? And like duplicating Pokemon, and like people like showing you like secret ways to duplicate items and stuff. And it was also like the time that I was like going to karate tournaments and stuff, and I would like bring my Game Boy with me, and then you didn't even have to like know kids at all. You just like see that they have a Game Boy and you know they're playing Pokemon, just the fact that they have a Game Boy, and then you just like make eye contact from across the gymnasium and you're just like, yo, we're gonna battle. Like, we'll do this karate bout, and then off the mat, we're gonna battle Pokemon. And yeah, it's just, that was like the only experience I've had like that. That was like, this is like a part of my life beyond just playing a game, you know?
Do you remember Philip Adamson?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was the only person that I ever battled Pokemon against.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I like slept over at his house one time and we played, and I don't think he was super into it because like my Pokemon were like, I mean, I had like a level 84 Raichu, and he like hadn't played that much yet. And so I never really got to experience battling people as a kid, which was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that's too bad. I think that's definitely like a fond memory I have of it, but that's also like something I only did like during that first couple of years or whatever, and then I've played it a ton of times since then, but I didn't do any of that. But it's definitely like a nice memory I have of it, just like coming together over something, even though you don't have anything else you know about a person.
Real quick, one of my life goals to this day is to catch all 151 original Pokemon in some capacity. Whether it's like the Game Boy game or like Pokemon Go or the cards or something like that. Maybe it could be collectively like across all different mediums, but ideally it would be like in one version. But, someday. What's something that is on your bucket list?
Um, Well, really quick on the Pokemon thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently got my collection of Pokemon cards from my house and brought them up here. And I was going through my collection and being like, oh, actually, I'm not that far off from like having all of them. So I was thinking like, maybe I should just like go and try to get the ones that I'm missing so I can just like throw them all up in a frame and put them in my office.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
But then I was like, does it take away from like the prestige of it if I'm just now a 33-year-old man with his own money that can just buy a holographic Blastoise for $5?
Ordering them on Amazon or something.
Yeah, like does it kind of remove the spirit of it? Like, I don't know.
I mean, theoretically, maybe you could go to like a Pokemon convention or something and try to trade with people.
Yeah, that's true.
I doubt you'd be successful.
I know. I don't think that I want to do that also.
That's fair.
So, yeah, I don't know if I'll do that. But bucket list items, I mean, I feel lucky to have done a lot of things on my bucket list. I mean, I'd like to have a kid and like do various activities that go along with that. As far as me personally, I think I would like to feel like I invented something. Like not necessarily like get something patented or anything like that, but just like feel like I have an idea for something that fixes a problem and then put it on paper and design something and then have that thing actually solve the problem that I'm trying to solve. I think that would be like a fulfilling thing.
And design it in AutoCAD.
Possibly AutoCAD. I actually have used Autodesk Fusion 360, which I think is the same publisher as AutoCAD, fairly recently.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that, like admitting, like, you know what, it's actually pretty sick, like, after all these years.
Yeah, well, I haven't used AutoCAD, like, since the Engineering Academy days, but, I mean, yeah, my whole job for years was to use a CAD program, and still, to some extent, is to this day, so, yeah, it was not wasted knowledge that we got from that class. For me, anyway. For you, it was.
No, well, I mean, I didn't use it. I mean, I still, like, I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, in general. But in terms of, like, this takeaway skills, not so much.
Yeah.
Nothing that I'm, actively applying to this day, but...
Yeah. I mean, the class was, that was definitely, like, the worst part about that class, was the AutoCAD.
Yeah. I think, I definitely have thought, not, like, seriously, but I have just kind of chuckled at the thought of, like, the things I enjoy doing now and learning about and experimenting with, like, we're all in Comic CAD, basically, like, visual, audio, production.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Like, filming and everything, like, that would have been really cool. So in retrospect, I wish I'd done that, but...
Ooh, you as a Comic CAD kid...
I don't know if I wouldn't have been a Comic CAD kid. I would have been, like, the tech Comic CAD kid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like Sean Higgins Comic CAD kid.
Yeah, Sean Higgins and I would have been real tight.
Yeah.
Nick Collins. Alright, we're on to round 3, or phase 3. We've taken our third shot, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What's something you don't like about yourself?
I mean, plenty of things. Am I supposed to pick one?
You don't have to.
I think I think as I get older, I'm learning to be like, this is something I used to not like about myself that I'm just going to embrace. So I don't know if I've trained myself out of not liking certain things, or if I just actually don't care about those things anymore. I think I don't like how I feel like I'm trying to work on this, but sometimes I try to like act aloof to like a relationship, like not necessarily like just a romantic relationship, but like since moving up here, just like trying to make friends with people. I feel like my natural reaction is to be like, okay, I'm not gonna like come on too strong with this person and like let them know that I'm like trying to be friends with them, you know? And so I feel like that doesn't really serve me very well, because it kind of just makes us not have a very good like basis for forming a friendship. But I am trying to be better about that.
Yeah, I deal with that same thing. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it kind of stems from like a fear of rejection, in the sense of like, oh, if I put too much into this, like, and they don't reciprocate it, then I'm gonna feel really sad. So I just purposely, like, I guess, remain avoidant, in the sense of, well, I'll just wait to see if they text me to hang out.
Yeah.
Because one thing I think about a lot is like how much I love it when you and Jenna talked about this on the conversation I had with her, where how nice it is when like you meet someone for the first time, and you're like, oh yeah, we should go like rock climbing sometime, and you're like, oh yeah, sure, and then you just expect it kind of to fizzle out, and then like the next day you get a text like, hey, it's Bill.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You want to go climbing later this week? And you're like, oh yeah, sure. And then you do it, and it's a blast. And then they're like, yeah, let's do this again next week. Yeah, cool, I'll text you. And how, if like that active initiation of interest, like, it feels so good. And I wish I had it in me to be that person a lot of the time.
Yeah, it is tough. Like, I think that me and Kimmy are both working on this. Kimmy has actually started, just when she meets someone that she feels like she wants to be friends with them, she literally says, oh, I want to be friends with you, to that person. And she got that partly from listening to your podcast with, I think, Neve. Because I think she said that she said that to you, or you said that to her.
Yeah, Neve did say that to me.
Yeah.
They texted me saying like, hey, we should be friends.
Okay, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah. And I very much kind of interpreted it literally.
Yeah. So Kimmy heard that from your podcast, and she was like, oh yeah, we should just start doing that. And so then she's done that to, like, I don't know, a few people since we moved.
And it's been successful?
To various degrees, but yeah,
Sure.
I mean, some of them have become actual friends, I would say.
What's the best compliment you've ever gotten?
The best compliment I've gotten... Well, there have been certain compliments I've gotten that I wouldn't consider the best, but they're just like so simple that I've held on to them for like the entire time since I've heard them. But I think that says more about me than about the actual compliment.
Sure, I mean, I'm the same way.
Okay, well, I'll give you like what I actually think is the best versus like one that I just think about all the time. At some point when me and Kimmy were dating, she said that I had a quiet confidence about me. And I thought that was great. Or I still do think that's great. But, I mean, basically, I'm just a very quiet person, as you know. And I feel like the whole time we were growing up, it was like, you know, you always hear people being like, oh, why are you so quiet? You shouldn't be so shy. You should come out of your shell and like talk to people and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, maybe I don't want to. But you're kind of just taught that that's like wrong. So to hear it like framed in a way that's like, oh, you're quiet, but it's like a good thing.
Yeah.
Was like really nice.
It's almost even better than someone just saying like, oh, you're really confident, because I feel like that's sort of I mean, not necessarily, but like it could be interpreted as someone being like, you're like boisterous to an extent.
Right. Like you're not like a bombastic, confident guy.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to be.
Exactly. But you're still like content and confident in what you're doing in any given moment.
Yeah.
What was the best day of your life?
I mean, our wedding.
Yeah.
By like a lot, probably.
I was thinking about this today. I would be so worried about, and I'm sure we have talked about this, even with Darren too, but like, how much work and preparation and mental preparation goes into the wedding, even up until the day before it, and just making sure that things are progressing smoothly and everyone's having fun at the wedding, and
oh yeah,
and how quickly it happens. And I'd be so worried about not being able to appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, that is what a lot of people say, is like, oh, you don't even have time to like enjoy like the food, the music, anything. And I was definitely like stressed the fuck out. Like, I don't know if you remember, or I don't know if I was like how much I was showing it.
No, not at all.
But that morning I was definitely like freaking out a little.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Because I was like, oh shit, today's the day.
Yeah.
Like, everything's got to come together. Like, I got to get all the shit together before I put on my suit, because I'm going to be sweating so much. And like, goddamn it, my dad cut my neck while he was shaving my back of my neck today, and like, it's going to bleed on my shirt or whatever. Just like so many things. But then while it was happening, I was just like, oh, this is great.
And me, Alex, Darren, we're just moseying around, helping set up.
Oh,
but, like,
dude, I feel like I really put you guys to work that day.
Well, I remember being sweaty.
Yeah.
I remember like rushing home and having to get ready, but yeah, obviously it was all worth it. What's the hardest you've ever laughed?
I think I'm gonna exclude times that we like took edibles at Alex's house, because that feels like a not genuine representation of how funny things actually were. But there was a time that I remember getting into a dryer at Alex's that I I thought was like the funniest thing ever.
I don't know if I was there for that.
Oh.
That doesn't ring a bell to me.
We definitely took edibles, and then at some point I like got into the dryer and had them close the door.
That sounds really funny.
But the time that comes to mind on like, you know, a more wholesome occasion was your I want peanut butter imitation of Max Gasselholm in Darren's Street.
That's I mean that's mine. That was so weird. How funny that was.
I think we just all got in a mood.
Yeah.
You just get in that little bit of a zone where I mean, I don't think that anything would have been funny, but I think that for whatever reason that just struck a certain little chord where we were all just like feeding off each other on how funny it was.
Maybe there was an element of like relief too, of like talking about it.
Yeah, probably. That probably was like one of the first times that we had kind of come together on that subject. Unfortunate as it may be.
Yeah. That's an interesting one, because I feel bad about it in retrospect, but also it was like one of the best days of my life too.
Yeah.
And I credit that as like solidifying my friendship with you guys in a way.
Yeah, well, I would say that you've made amends for whatever kind of microaggressions were in there.
That's true. I did apologizing to him on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Years later. Tell me about yourself.
Shit. Yeah, this is the one that like is coming, but then my name's Justin. I'm half Japanese and half Filipino, which maybe I'm bringing that to this podcast for the first time. I I'm like a quiet, reserved person that keeps like a handful of people close to me that I find myself deeply loyal towards. One of whom is you. And I just like to like build stuff, I think. I like to like make things, like whether it's like art or like crafty things or like woodworking or graphic design. I just like all that stuff. I like video games, and I'm an engineer. I like climbing and camping and hiking, being outdoors. I'm trying to embrace being a Portlander and a Pacific Northwesterner and whatever that means.
What does it mean?
I don't know. I'm like trying to figure that out, but like for my whole life I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely like a California kid. But now I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like I do kind of belong up here. But yeah, I'm not sure what it means exactly, but I guess I'm trying to learn that by making some PNW friends and kind of just living out my life.
Do you feel like you know yourself by now?
To some extent. I feel like I'm still figuring it out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say that. I feel like as I get older, like I just always am surprised how little the people my age actually know. Mm-hmm. I mean, both in terms of knowledge and like about themselves. But I think I'm expecting to be constantly figuring stuff out about myself as I get older, like for a really long time. Like I don't know if I'll ever fully know myself.
Can you think of the last time you were surprised by yourself?
I don't know. I don't know if I've ever like done something and then had the wherewithal to be like, wow, Justin, that was like really unlike you. I think I'm the type of person that like thinks a lot about my actions before actually doing them. Yeah. So I don't know if I have had like a spontaneous moment like that. Maybe if I was like drunk or something doing something, but yeah, I don't know. I guess not.
One that I can think of for me was a couple years ago when we were all first getting into Strava and tracking our running, and I ran around the track in San Francisco and ran like 12K, and my mile pace was like
I remember that. That was crazy,
like that. Dude. Yeah, like in the moment I remember just being like, I'm just gonna do the best I can, and had no idea it was gonna be that good. And I remember afterwards seeing that and thinking like, this is it, this is my peak. I have no desire to ever like have this kind of running performance again.
Yeah, I remember we were all like kind of running pretty seriously at that time, and we were having some kind of like internal competition either on like pace or like number of miles or something, I don't remember. But I had like just done a run like the day before or like earlier that day, and I was like, oh shit, I won. I like got this. I locked this shit down, and then you came in with your like just laps around the track with like a blazing pace, and I was like, shit, Nick just like spanked me.
Yeah, and I saw that and I was like, what the fuck, Nick? Like, did you take steroids I didn't know about?
Yeah, I don't think I've had a moment like that where I was like I accomplished a feat that I didn't think I could do.
What about when you were like a sophomore in college and either you like looked in the mirror one day and you're like, wait, what the fuck? I'm jacked.
Yeah, okay. So when I was like, I don't remember if it was like freshman or sophomore year. Whenever I started like lifting like seriously, there were times, or there was like at some point when I looked in the mirror and I was like,
Yeah.
like, oh wait, I look like a lot different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you know, it like a lot of times it just takes someone else seeing you. So like when you came back to visit for like Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it was, or summer, and Alex, Darren, and I saw you for the first time, and we were like, what the fuck, Justin?
Yeah, I mean that was like definitely really cool. But I did know
Yeah.
that I was purposely doing that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that surprising, but I was like very, I mean that's a fond memory of mine.
Mm-hmm.
that goes in my like self-confidence boost bank that I reflect on often.
Yeah. I think everyone has a bank, but I think people like you and me who maybe our self-esteem generally is like a little lower than most people, like we have our banks a little wider.
Yeah. I literally have a folder in my like work Outlook called encouragement that I like put all of my like emails from people that they say that I did like a really good job or whatever.
Oh, nice.
That I keep just in case I'm like feeling really bad about myself.
That's a good idea. I could do something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, we're at time.
Well, it was a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that like it's less about the alcohol going into phase 3 and more just like the comfortability of just, oh, we're just having a conversation, sort of.
Yeah, I mean it is nice that like, you know, you kind of lull me in with like the video game questions and just like get me settled into the couch and like talking. Yeah, that tell me about yourself question though is just
It's brutal.
yeah, I don't know, like everyone should be asked that though, like on a personal level. But yeah, I would be surprised if someone has like a set answer to that they answer for themselves in life. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm surprised when people don't immediately start with like, oh, my name's Nick, I live in Seattle, because it's such the default. It's so easy to go to that.
Yeah.
Anna, I remember she was like the first one that I asked that question to, and she took it in a really like cool place. And that's when I was like, oh man, I gotta ask her this question. Like, this is fun.
I mean, I feel like most of the people you've asked that, they're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
What am I gonna say?
Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't move it because it. Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm running low on people to do this with.
I mean, you've done quite a few.
I've done I've done a lot now. I've done like 10. Yeah, I have 2 more friends up here that I want to do it with. And then I'd like to get Alex one of these days.
Yeah, was he just an initial, like, no way?
Yeah. No, not no way, but just like, not interested right now. But he might change his mind.
Yeah. Well, now me and Darren have both done it, so.
Yeah, he's running out of excuses.
Alex, calling you out, bud.
Yeah. All right, Justin. Let's get ready for this birthday party.
Yeah, boy.
All right, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Bye, everybody.